Welcome, fellow storm riders. This hypnotic hurricane is about to strike the Nevada desert. Welcome to Brain Software, episode 73 with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson. He moonwalks better than Michael Jackson. He plays chess better than Bobby Fischer, and he plays piano better than Glenn Gould, because they're all dead. Please welcome to the eye of the hypnotic hurricane, the man who's sick and tired of all the same things you are. Here he is, everybody, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Christopher, jingling my keys. As you know, I've just arrived from our summer cottage. Roads were not too busy, came roaring down here like Jack the Road Roarer, just to make sure we get this sucker done and get number 73 out there. And we got a great one today, haven't we?
Yes, we do. I think we're going to be spending some time talking about some interesting things. For example, how to change somebody else's behavior.
Yeah, and that's something a lot of us want to do. In fact, very few of us want to change ourselves because we're already perfect. Right? Yes.
Right. So we'll get to that in a moment. But yes, it's summertime. We're enjoying vacation time. Mike's going back to his cottage after we record
I've had
this.
so much mashed potatoes, garlic mashed potatoes I make myself at the cottage, which is insane. Just bloating up from the carbs. I got to get off them now. But my breath is so garlicky and bad, it may have issued from the very backside of Satan.
Oh, that is absolutely horrible.
So I'm warning you so you're not leaning into your mic
All
too
right,
close.
so please do not do that when we're in Las Vegas in August.
Right.
Speaking of which, this is pretty much your last chance at this point to sign up for our Mindscaping one-day bonus class on August 25th, which is the Thursday prior to the HypnoThoughts Live Conference, which is the 26th, 27th, and 28th of August in Las Vegas at the Orleans Hotel. Mike and I will be there. We're going to have a lot of fun with every one of you who is also there. So head on over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/HT Live 2016. So that's for HypnoThoughts Live 2016. So MikeMandelHypnosis.com/HT Live 2016, where you can check out the bonus class that we are doing. You get a discount on your ticket, but we've got more than 50 people signed up for this class. So we're going to be cutting off registrations very shortly.
Check it out. You're going to love it. Learn this amazing modality that we're getting such phenomenal results with. And so are therapists, coach, guidance counselors, sports people around the world. Check out Mindscaping.
All right, so let's jump right into the content for today then, Mike. We want to talk about how somebody can learn how to change the behavior of somebody else.
Now, it's a really interesting and really important question, because when you realize, let's make it the behavior of you and one other person, all right? So
to keep it really simple.
Keep it really simple, not a dysfunctional family, but just something like, a guy and his girlfriend, or a woman and her boss, whatever. There's a relationship that is annoying to one of the people at least. How do you change that? And as soon as you recognize, or one recognizes, that you are in a psychodynamic communication loop with the other person, then it becomes easier to make changes. And by that, of course, you know what I mean, Chris, but for those who may not, I mean that all of your communications with this person are having an effect on the other person, whereupon they will then behave in some different way, or give you, facial expressions, or say something, or walk out of the room, or whatever. Their communication then comes back to you. That will affect your behavior. And so this goes round and round and round in a communication loop. Now, there's nothing wrong with a communication loop. But if it's a loop that you're not happy about, you want to be able to change the other person's behavior. The good news is it can be done, but the bad news is the way you change another person is by changing yourself. This is paradoxical, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. In fact, I'm so glad you brought up the concept of the psychodynamic loop. Say that again. Psychodynamic loop. Because when we say that we're going to show you how to change the behavior of someone else, we really mean we're going to show you how to change the behavior of someone else when they're in a communication loop with you.
Right. And so anywhere you intervene on a loop will change the entire loop. Because obviously, if you change your behavior, it's going to affect them either directly or indirectly, which will then cause some sort of shift, even subtle, perhaps subtle or even profound, back towards you. So it doesn't matter where in the loop you intervene, you will change the loop in some way. So the question is, how do you want to do this? Let's say that you have somebody you're involved with, and you and your boss always have the same stupid argument over and over and over, and or not even argument, but maybe just disagreement. Things never progress from there. one of the most interesting things about human beings is we tend to expect the other person to shift while making no shifts ourselves. And John Grinder told me the way you change another person is by asking yourself the question, what am I doing that exquisitely maintains this other person's behavior? Now think about that. That could be almost an empowering question. What am I doing that is exquisitely maintaining this other person's behavior? In other words, they are responding to the behavior that you are consistently offering, which is producing the same result.
Absolutely. So let's have you give an auditory breakdown. Well, I guess it's a podcast, so it's going to be auditory.
Pretty much, yes.
Let's have you explain so that people who are therapists or counselors can use this with their clients as well, and those who are just interested can listen and use this tool on themselves. I want you to explain how to use the theater of the mind, personal edit.
Okay, this was taught to me by my mentor, Derek Baumer, who learned it from John Grinder, and it's a wonderful, wonderful technique. Theater of the mind comes out of John Grinder's NLP New Code, as opposed to classical NLP, which was Bandler and Grinder from the 70s and early 80s. Now, New Code always involves some sort of physical motion as well. It gets the entire body involved instead of just thinking about things. So I'll run the process by you, and if any of you wish to, and I'm hoping many of you will use this in relationships that you have that are not necessarily dysfunctional, but just not going the way you want them to, and will experience some degree of amazing change. So let me just go for the big, clear the throat, edit it out.
And while he's doing that, I'll just point out, if you're driving a car or whatever, pull over and do this right now if you have a chance, or just save it for later and review this again later. But use this tool. If you're just passively listening on a subway, on your way to work or whatever, go through this again at some point and actually do it.
Right, and it will work if you run the entire process in your mind. But for some reason, this is better, again, using new code principles, if you get up and physically move. So here's how Derek told it to me. Imagine that we're sitting in a theater together, and we've watched some amazing production. Could be live theater, could be opera, could be a play, could be a concert. And there's an intermission, and everybody else files out for the intermission. But you and I decide to stay, and we're still sitting in our seats, fairly near the front. And once everyone else has left for the intermission, the stage lights up a bit, the curtains open, and another production begins on the intermission break. And you see yourself up there, a different you, in a relationship, in a psychodynamic loop with the problem person. Let's say the person's boss in this case. And you watch from the audience as they go through their typical behavioral shifts and their typical conversation. And you notice how it's not really going very well. And you watch it to the end. And then, if you can physically do it, that's great. If not, do it in your head. You decide to direct this little play that they're doing on this stage and see if you can make it better, a better outcome. So you get up, go up to the stage, and speak to you, the other you, not the other person, but the other you, and counsel him or her on how to behave differently. You could say, this time I want you to come in and run the loop, that communication, that same scene, but I want you to smile as you enter the room instead. Or I want you to pause before you jump in on what the person's saying and see how this goes. And you can step back and watch them run it again. And if you're still not comfortable with the outcome, you direct it again until you're getting the favorable outcome you want. You sit back in the audience, watch them run it all the way through with the new behaviors that you built in to your other character, because that's the one you can control. And when you are completely, congruently happy with the result, before the next half of the program begins, pull that other you into you. Use your hands, reach out, grab that other you, pull them right into your body, into your chest, breathe them in, and feel how great you feel with all those changes already up and running and all the resources available. And what you will notice is you're not doing some little mind trick here, but when you interact with that person again, your behavior will have changed to match what you have done in the theater of the mind.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk.
Oh, this has been podcast 73, yeah.
Let's talk about this now. So what makes that different? For those who are new to NLP, this will be useful discussion. What makes that different than just thinking about it and saying, hey, every time I have that conversation with my wife, we end up having a fight. Gee, what can I do different? Oh, I can do this different and that different. Okay, I'll try that.
The difference is, if you can get up out of your seat and stand congruently and move and be powerful and breathe, you're the director. Mm-hmm. You're the one controlling this loop from the outside. You're in third position now. So first position is I, second position is you, third position is they. You moved into director's position, and by doing this, you've disconnected from the negative emotions by dissociating from them. So you're not dragged into those bad states.
Right. So while what I described can work, it's much more effective to step into third position, be the director, unemotionally watch what's going on and imagine what changes could happen, counsel that other you, and then by pulling in that other you at the end, breathing that other you in, adopting all of the beliefs
integrating
and resources.
it all.
It's an integration process, right? It's a way of saying to your unconscious mind, I'm going to take on these changes and manifest them in myself now.
Right. And it's, again, we're using perceptual positions here. But getting up out of your seat, physically moving and breathing, and actually talking to that other you as though they are there will build intrinsic experience too, just by default. This is the same, Chris, in many ways, as you'll remember from your NLP training when we used to do perceptual positions, which goes back really is the heart of Gestalt therapy, where you have two chairs facing each other, and you're sitting in one, and you imagine the problem person sitting in the other.
Right.
And you imagine the communication going, and you put a label on it, generally a nominalization or a single word, something like frustration.
Right.
And then you get up, shake it off, sit down, and be the other person, and look back at you. And from their perception, seeing you in the empty chair, what name do they give it? Irritability. Oh, okay. So shake that off. Move your body. Now get up and dissociate. Look at the two chairs from the side. And what do you observe the loop between the two again? What are you calling it from the dissociated position? Maybe futile. Oh, that's interesting. So now with this new word, futile, you sit back into your own position again and notice how everything is shifted. And you go around the loop as many times as you want. But often, once will do it and will cause profound shifts in that relationship.
Now, remember podcast 72, we talked about reframing. And in a sense, this accomplishes reframing, doesn't it? It causes you to look at that scene from a different perspective.
Absolutely.
And get a new resource,
Good
get
spotting.
a new set of tools.
Yeah.
So it's
changing
interesting
the framework. You're dissociated. You're an observer now instead of being in the situation. And this forces one to go into, or enables one to go into all three positions. Self, which is I, which is position one. Then the other person, which is position two, which is you, which is empathy. And then finally dissociated, which is three. When I did my initial NLP training, they added a fourth one, which of course is completely unnecessary, where you stand on a chair in the corner of the room and look at the dissociated you looking at them.
Which is irrelevant.
Yeah, what's the point? Like, how many do you do? Why not then be in an airplane looking at
yourself
standing
Mars,
in a chair?
you know? Yeah.
Well, Mars might be good.
Yeah. That's just insane. Okay, so to recap that one, what do you call that one? Perceptual
position shift.
So the perceptual position shift. So you're starting imagining there's a relationship between yourself and some other person.
And you
so
watch the typical thing take place.
Two chairs. You sit in the chair that's where you would be sitting, and you imagine the situation going on, and from your perspective,
and vividly imagine the other person in the other chair.
And you imagine it, and then from your perspective, you give it a word, a description, like a frustration or anger or whatever it is. Then you shake it off. You get into the other person's chair, imagine it again.
Sink into being them. Fully be them. Use the as-if frame. I am Doris now.
And then you ask yourself, what is this now? From their perspective, and you get another word. So that means you're getting a new framing on it, new learning from it. Then you shake it off again. You stand at the side. You observe the two chairs and imagine that you is in that one chair and that them is in the other chair.
Right.
The second
switch
person.
Places, yeah.
And you observe it from a third-party position. You give it another description, like futile, like you said.
Yeah,
and
whatever it is. A label.
Then, with all of those perceptual positions explored, shake it off, go back to your first position again, sit back in your chair.
With all you've learned.
And then, discover what you've learned that's new. And then come back and use it.
Yeah,
okay.
It's really clever, and you get some amazing results.
So those are two really good, what we call in NLP, personal edits.
Yes.
That you can use to change someone else's behavior, because you'll learn something new that will change how you behave, that will affect the psychodynamic loop.
And again, you're not trying to talk yourself into something. You're actually running your brain in a different way to get new insights, which leads us to the next thing nicely, Chris. I wanted to do a thing on talking to your pain.
Oh,
and I think this is a really key point. Can we fit this in here?
We can absolutely fit it in. I just want to jump in real quick, though. And I did a hilarious thing this morning that I really shouldn't do. My wife was asking me some questions.
Uh-oh.
And when she was just about done, I said to her, "Do you want to quiz me on this some more?" Now, if you say so, that just to give you perspective, when Mike was describing the theater of the mind, I was thinking, gee, if I really want to annoy my wife, all I have to do is when she's asking me questions, say, "Do you want to quiz me on this some more?" Now, if I had just smiled and given her a kiss and said, "Hey, can I get you another cup of coffee?" Do you think that her behavior would have been different in the end? Of course. Now, I did it half jokingly, but
half jokingly is half not jokingly.
And you listening, you know what I mean when I say this. Your interaction, you're responsible for your interaction in a relationship. And if you do something that you know is going to piss off the other person, then obviously it's going to affect their behavior. And that's why it's so easy to understand from this tool that you can change someone else's behavior by changing your own behavior first.
And also, Chris, with that kind of interaction, always have an exit strategy.
Yeah.
So many people do not have an exit strategy. They don't realize, they don't calibrate and recognize the topic is complete. It's over. And any more discussion just causes the loop to open again. And there's no need when the loop is closed. I'll give you an example. My wife was talking to a family member who's a bit nuts. Had managed to calm him down over a number of issues by being coherent and cogent and all of this. And I watched the loop close, and he felt better. Mm-hmm. And I was standing up so we could leave.
And he opened the loop again.
She said to him, "What is it about all this that actually bothers you?"
Oh, no.
And I just went, "Are you out of your mind?" And bang, it put him in a really bad state instantly. And it was, the gloves are off and it was all on again. I couldn't believe, I said, "Honey, you've got to have exit strategies."
You know what? That reminds me of probably one of the most effective exit strategies that you can have is the one you teach hypnotists for the end of a client session. Once the loop is closed, it's resolved, you say, what's next? Right? That's a great exit strategy because it'll change the topic, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. What's next?
What's next? Well, I said, we're looking at this perceptual position thing. I wanted to talk about speaking to pain. And this is a very interesting thing. It works.
You just finished reading a book on this.
Well,
right?
no, I've read another book on ego state theory because I've been reading, Watkins, Federn, and Emerson. And I just read another one.
I can't keep up with your reading.
Well, it's just, it's really good because what he talks about doing, this psychologist, is speaking directly to your pain and dissociating from it. So give this a shot. Anybody who's got pain, chronic pain or whatever, put your pain in another chair.
Okay.
And speak to the pain and say, imagine it's in the chair vividly, however you imagine it, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, whatever, and say, what exactly are you doing? You're giving me this pain all the time. It's driving me crazy. Talk to it and tell it how you feel. And then either listen and let the pain answer you or actually get in the chair and be the pain and answer. He said the results can be astounding. And the psychologist said, there's nothing nuts or wrong about doing this. It will give you new insights.
Well, it's essentially like parts therapy, right? In
Definitely
hypnosis.
it is, of
so
course.
You're
Which is ego state theory again.
Right. So you can think of there being a part of you responsible for having this pain, and that pain could be psychological in nature or have a root that's psychological in nature. Or it could just be, look, I'm in pain because you broke your back with that stupid gymnastics thing you did 10 years ago, and I don't want you doing that stupid stuff anymore.
Right. And you can negotiate with your pain back and forth until you get some sort of resolution. And how surprised will you be when you discover how much it is reduced or gone completely now?
Okay, so we'll leave that as an exercise for you, the listener,
What's
to
next, buddy? We're going to keep moving. So we got a live webinar to the world.
Yeah, we were going to talk about how to set up a universal positive anchor. Do you want to teach that real quick?
Okay, remember an anchor is a stimulus to a state. So it's a state connected to a trigger. And what you want to get is a really positive state. Now, here's a great way of doing it. Figure out... what markers are you going to use to fire this anchor? What are you going to do? You can, say a word or make a fist. I like to do something that isn't going to happen by accident, something that is very deliberate and distinctive because it will catch the attention of your unconscious mind. The one I like that I read in a hypnosis book lately is touching the tip of your thumb to the ring finger of your left hand, which is, where you wear a wedding ring, and just squeezing.
It's sort of like making the OK sign, but with the ring finger
which isn't
instead of your index
and
finger.
Squeezing and focusing on it. Mm-hmm. So get in a really powerful state. Stand, move, look up, move your eyes back and forth, breathe deeply, feel you're empowered, and then squeeze this anchor and hold it and continue to breathe and feel empowered. Then start stacking anchors on it. So anytime you notice you're in a really good state, you're out with your friends, you're all laughing, you're having a blast, set the anchor again. look at it, squeeze it, look at it while you do it so it's in the visual system too. And then breathe. Every time you do this, you'll be stacking more anchors on top of it. So when you need that positive state, you've got to go into a business meeting or whatever, you're not feeling up to it, fire the anchor. Touch your thumb and ring finger together, the tips, press them and look at it, and it will instantly fire that anchored state because it is distinctive, different, replicable, and the more positive anchors you fire on top of this, add on top, it could be, you can add relaxation, you can add laughter, you can add feeling powerful, just stack a ton of positive anchors on all the good stuff.
So essentially, this is a method that doesn't complete right now. We'll teach it to you, you start it, you're building the foundation. Every time you notice yourself feeling great for whatever reason, set that anchor, and then just keep building on top of it.
Right. And Chris, I may have told you, I was in a chess tournament in the 1990s, and I was in the final against a Hungarian, George Levi. And what happened was he had me a bishop down. I'd lost a bishop. I was in a bad position. My wife was on a cell phone and said to my friend in Ottawa, Mike's going to lose.
Oh.
Thanks, that helps. And I fired the anchor that my NLP trainer, Chris Dunkley, had given me at the time. And I saw a 3 or 4 move trap and sucked him in and wound up winning the tournament, which was really, really pleasing.
Awesome.
Anchoring works. Use it.
All right, so now we've talked about the pain. Let's talk about graphology.
Oh, yeah,
the weekend
promote that, Chris.
Right, we need to just mention here quickly that the weekend of September 17th and 18th, so that's the Saturday, Sunday, it's in Toronto. Mike is teaching a live graphology class. Graphology, also known as handwriting analysis. There is a really good video on our website, MikeMandel,hypnosis.com/handwriting. I verified that was the correct link. That is the correct link. There's a great introduction video where Mike explains how handwriting is essentially controlled by your personality, or the two are a loop, really. And this is a great weekend seminar. You're going to learn so much about how to interpret other people's handwriting and your own handwriting, and you will be shocked. And I like how you put it. If people knew what their handwriting showed about their personality,
they'd never let anybody see it.
They'd never let anybody see it.
Now, I know people don't write so much anymore, but people still do. And it gives you an x-ray of the personality at that moment. We have police officers taking my course. I've used this forensically for years. I still do it forensically. We've had therapists take the course. People who are just fascinated by it. People who are mentalists and magicians who want to seem like they're psychic. Because when you look at a sample of writing for 30 seconds, you will know that person inside out. And it is mind-blowing. So check it out online. Come and study in Toronto. 2-day intensive. And you will leave with some amazing new powers.
Right. And for those people who do sign up, you get access to the digital class, the online version of the class, as an included bonus. So MikeMandelHypnosis.com/handwriting. There's only a little bit of time left because we are teaching that class September 17th and 18th here in Toronto.
Right. Chris, I wonder now if you could give us the latest Gus Grissom update.
Sure. Gus Grissom has been spotted in Jonesboro, Louisiana. Deputy Stephen Watts was driving past the parking lot of the Budget Inn when he noticed a tractor-trailer with a large object protruding from the back, partially covered by a tarp. The driver was reportedly wearing a ball cap bearing the insignia of the Wu-Tang Clan. His curiosity aroused, the deputy stopped the cruiser, only to notice the object on the back of the trailer appeared to be a space capsule. He quotes, "The man took off his hat to wipe some sweat from his brow. I recognized that brush cut. It was Gus Grissom. He gave me a little salute when he saw me, got back in his truck, and drove away. I would have loved to have spoken to him and asked for an autograph, but could not detain him as he was doing nothing illegal." Deputy Watts reported that Grissom appeared to be fit and in good health, although he seemed slightly tired.
Okay, now, Chris, that was interesting to know Gus is still moving around a lot. Interesting he's carrying the Mercury space capsule with him, and I don't know what that means, but hopefully if you have a Gus Grissom update, send us an email to Gus Grissom, Grissom, @mailinator.com, and we will list it. Chris, could you give us today's empowering question?
Absolutely. Here's your empowering question for today, and I think it fits in well with the content that we talked about. Who is the single most toxic person in my life who always manages to drag me down to their level, and what am I going to do about it today? Who is the single most toxic person in my life who always manages to drag me down to their level, and what am I going to do about it today?
Nice. And that leads us to my metaphor for the day, the therapeutic or personal change metaphor. Again, the best ones are drawn from our own lives. Last year, we were at our summer cottage in Northern Ontario, and we'd had a wonderful time with a lot of wildlife, geese, wild turkeys around, otters. We saw a wolf, and we were sitting in our cottage with our friends Val and Dave, just having a glass of wine, my wife and I, the four of us, and the storm door was shut, which is one single pane of glass. The main door was open. And we're sitting there talking, and my Egyptian Mao was right near the door. And Val suddenly said, I think there's somebody outside the door in the dark. So I think we're being creepy crawled, so I'm immediately going for a Bowie knife or something. She said, no, it's an animal. It's a dog. Oh, I think it's a bear. And I went and looked at the door, and this big black bear was on the other side of the glass, 18 inches away from my Egyptian Mao, who's sitting on the inside staring at him, completely unafraid. And it was like, shoot, it was freaky. This thing could easily go through the glass. If they want to get in, they get in. And he suddenly disappeared around the corner. And my wife said, oh, he must have gone down the road. And we were all freaked out. Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. A bear right at the cottage. And I said, I've got to go out and look and see where he went. And Heather said, no, don't. I said, I have to. So I went out, shut the door behind me, and he wasn't there on the left, and I couldn't see him on the road. So I walked along the front of the cottage and turned the corner to where the barbecue is, and 8 feet in front of me, looking directly at me, was the bear. And I was much closer to the bear than I was to the cottage door. And it really, really was a very bizarre sensation. And we sort of regarded each other for a moment, and then I just turned and walked away and went back in the cottage and said I was looking right at him. And then he loped down the road, and we didn't see him again that evening.
Fantastic. This has been Brain Software Podcast episode 73 with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson. Make sure you check out our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. We've got all kinds of great stuff for you on the blog, lots of podcast episodes. Subscribe to this in iTunes or Stitcher or whatever your favorite podcast player is. You'll find it at MikeMandelHypnosis.com, and in the navigation area, you'll see podcast in the navigation right there. Easy to find. So, subscribe and visit our website, and can't remember what else I want to yet. Come to Hypnothoughts in Vegas, and you will just have a blast. Just join us, because we're going to have a blast together.
Hey, man, I'm back already. It's Dave Ambrose, people's physicist, dude. Just came down from the 17th dimension. It's weird up there. It's like somebody cut the cheese or something. Hey, man, listen. I got a letter sent in to me. It's an email, but I printed it off. Here's the physics question of today. This dude wants to know, like, Robert Oppenheimer, like, what was he like and why did he say, I've become the destroyer of worlds? Well, you gotta understand, man. Oppenheimer worked on Los Alamos Project, the atomic bomb. And when you're trying to implode spherically shaped, highly reactive metal and you got an initiator in there pouring out neutrons to set off the runaway chain reaction as fast as you can, man, it makes you think some deep stuff, dude. It was like real Gonzville, man. And he wrote down, I'm the destroyer of worlds, because he's quoting the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu text, man. Well, why would he do that? Hinduism's got nothing to do with bombs, dude. Oppenheimer was obviously a dick.